Hi everyone, welcome to this channel. Today I will share a common interview questions about Abinitio. So what are the expectations in Abinitio technical interview? So we will discuss today. So before interview questions, first you need to understand the basics of any concept. Understanding of basics. Suppose so we are preparing for interview about Abinitio. So why Abinitio? Okay. So what Avinsha will do, why we will use, how we will use like that. First, we need to understand the concept. So basic means so it is a ETL tool. So ETL tool means extracting, transforming, and load the data. So here we are extracting, we are unloading the data, and here we are transforming. Transforming the data means so we are applying the business rules given by the users, and we are loading into the table. So like this. So we are extracting, transforming, and loading. Means we are processing the data, right? So we are processing the data. We are unloading the data, processing. We are loading into the data. So how we are processing? We are processing data in parallel. So parallel processing is fast compared to serial processing. So how we are processing data in parallel? So we have parallelism. Parallelism. So here we have types of parallelism. So component parallelism, pipeline parallelism, and data parallelism. So which parallelism is fast, like that we need to understand. So data parallelism. So how data parallelism will work in Abinitio? So we will use partitions. So using partitions, the data will be load fast. Okay. So we are processing the data using parallel processing, data parallel processing, and using parallelism component. So we have different types of parallelism components. For each component, each parallelism type we need to understand, and which data partitions will use for faster loading the data. Okay. So it will convert data into multiple files and load the data. Okay. Likewise, we need to understand basics for it. So why are we issue? Okay. So we are extracting, transformation, and loading. Like that, we need to understand. Okay. So now we will discuss about interview concepts or interview questions. So in interview, no one will ask what is Abinitio. Okay. So first we will learn about Abinitio, right? But no one will ask what is Abinitio. Most of the interviews they may ask explain about Abinitio architecture. So in Abinitio architecture only we need to explain them. So cooperating system. Why we are using cooperating system, and EME enterprise metadata environment, and GDE, sandbox, and application hub. So we need to explain about cooperating system, why we are using EME, what we will do in GDE, and why what is sandbox, and what is application hub. So we need to explain each and every object. Okay. So if anyone asks Avinsha architecture, no one will ask what is cooperating system, what is EM. So if they want to know, you know all the topics, they just ask what is Avinsha architecture. Okay. So you need to explain all this. Okay. So cooperating system is an environment for building Avinsha applications, It is the heart of Abinitio. It operates on top of operating system. It provides additional features known as air commands. Okay, it is based for Abinitio process. Like that, we need to explain. So EME we are using for central repository. So here we will do the version control, object version controls. Okay, metadata, check-in, checkout will be using EME. GD. So we'll use ID integrated development environment. We'll on GUI. It is a GUI application, and so where we develop the graph and run the graph and check status of the graph. And sandbox. It is a file system copy of data storage object. Okay, so we have directories, all the directories in sandbox only. So DB, MP, run, XFR, DML, all the directories we will store in this sandbox only. So in sandbox also we have different type of sandbox, personal and FID. So FID will use all the colleagues also. Personal sandbox only you will be having access of the sandbox objects. Application hub, it will coordinate connection between GDE to operating system and GDE to EMU. Okay, you just need to know only the basics of what it is. Okay, so then they will understand. Okay, you are aware of the concept. Okay, so next they will ask, once we get GDE access, so in run settings, so we will give application hub details. Okay, so application hub path details. Also, connection, if they want to know about connection related, means they will ask you Abinitio RC, what is Abinitio RC, what is dot profile, like that they will ask. Okay. Also, we have dot DVC and dot CFG. What is the difference between dot DVC and dot CFG? So dot DBC will be connection for database, dot CFG for remote connection we will use. So we need to explain what it contains in DBC file and what are the parameters available in dot CFG. Okay, so we need to explain everything in this question. So the mainly they will ask transfer they will ask what are the components you are using in your project. So you can say any transform components. So use it suppose reformat, roll, scan, normalize, join, sort. So just components, sort component, data sort, filter by expression. Okay, so you must know all these components, basics of these components. Okay, so what are the parameters in these components, why we are using these components, basic, at least we need to know basics. Okay. If you are unable to solve the scenarios, but you must know the basics of these components, why we are using this component and what are the parameters this component is having, and runtime behavior of these components. Okay, suppose if you are saying you know data sorted component, they will ask what are the ports in this component. So they will expect from you duplicate port is available in data sort component. Deselect port is available in filter by expression component. Output index and output indexes component parameters in reformat component. Key change in rollup. Override key in join. Length in normalize. Okay. So they will expect from you these points. If they are asking normalize means they are expecting length how you will determine. In join how you will use override key. In rollup scan key change function how you will use key change function. And reformat output index and output indexes. Filter by expression how you will use deselect port. Okay. If you are keeping 1, what will be the output? If you are keeping 0, what is the output? If you are keeping -1, what is the output? Okay. If it is null means what is the output? Like that they will ask. In data sort component, what is the key, keep, select, also check sort. Okay. Like that they will ask. You must know all this and runtime behavior of each component you must know. Okay. Then you may expect what is replicate component will do. Redefine component, redefine format component, and run program component. So you must know the basics of these components as well, what this component will do. Okay. And in join component, the last input must be sorted. Okay. In memory sorted, what is the use of both, and the driving port, they will ask what is the driving port. Okay. And also they will ask if key is null, what is the output in transform components they will mention. So we have components key, right? Key parameter. If that parameter, if we give key means what is the output? Okay. Data sort component. Roll up, scan, join. Okay. If we keep key is null, what is the output of the data sort component? What is the output of roll up? So if we keep key is null means all the records will take as one record. Okay. So it will group as it will only one group, one record only it will take if we are keeping key. Then you must know the partition components. What are the partition components available in Abinitio? Okay, you must know what is partition by key and partition by round robin. The function how they both are working. Okay, so partition by key is partition based on the key, and key is having same values in the same partition. Okay. Partition by round robin, it is distributing data evenly in block size across the output partitions. Okay. So if your downstream is expecting sorted operation means you will use partition by key. If it is not expecting sorted operation means you will use partition by round robin. Only this is the difference. So if they want to ask more questions here means what is data skew? Okay. So which is the high and which is low skew in this component partition components they will ask you. Okay, so you must know at least these two differences and what is the functions these two partitions. Then departition components also they may ask you departitions. You must know gather, okay, merge, concatenate, interleave. Okay, so mostly you will use gather component. It is faster in departition component. So you must know what is gather component will do, what concatenate component will do. Okay, so interleave is the reverse of partition by round robin. It will use the block size only. Okay, in merge we will do the sort and maintain order. Okay. Then you must know database dataset components. input table, output table, and update table. So here what they will expect how you will create the DBC file. Okay, how you will unload the data, how you will load the data. You will use this SQL statement or DBC, what type of database type, DBMS type. Okay, so how you will, what is the default delimiter you will use the DBC configuration file. Okay, they will expect what is commit, what is the commit table. Okay, commit table, and they will ask you difference between API mode and API and utility mode. Uti- Utility mode. API is the conventional loading. Utility is the direct loading. Okay, if they want to understand about you have experience in loading. Extracting the data, unloading data, they may ask you these questions also. So typical questions: commit table and difference between API and utility, which loading you will use in current projects, like that they will ask. Okay, how you will load the data, how you will unload the data. Okay, what type of their tables you have. Suppose you are using Hive tables, means so is the internal or external tables you are using. Okay, staging tables, standardization tables we have. So they will ask what is staging table, what is standardization table, what is internal table, what is external table. Okay, so you must know basics. What is the table, like that you need to understand. Then also in the table related, you also must know AB local expression. Okay, so so this function also we must know. So if suppose sometimes our statements will not understand this Abinitio tables, we will use this Abinitio local expression functions to understand the query. Okay. Then we must know multi-file system. How we will create multi-file system. Okay. So how we will know the depth of parallelism. How depth of how you identify this is the multi-file system or multi-file or serial file. Okay, so if it is one means serial file, if more than one means multi-file. Okay, so like that we need to answer. And we need to know suppose four-way multi-file, we need to convert it to eight-way, like that also they may ask you. So that time we need to do the repartitioning. So repartitioning means already partitioned data we need to connect with the different partition again, repartition. Okay, so it will be depth of parallelism of partition data, grouping of grouping of the records within partition of partition data is the repartition. Okay, then you must know what is layout. So in program components we have layout properties. So layout means different which component will run from where. Okay, we have in Abhishek we have serial layout and parallel layout. Parallel means multi layout. So we have serial means so AMFS. Multi files will be stored in AMFS. Serial files will be loaded into A underscore serial. Okay. So when we are loading into the table or loading into the file, we will mention path A underscore serial and file name we will keep. So it will identify it is multi-file or serial file. Okay. and we must know parameters. So we have different type of parameters: graph parameter, sandbox parameter, okay, formal parameter, okay, input parameter. We have different type of parameters. So they will ask you, so project parameters, sandbox graph parameter, how you will create a graph parameters, how you will, what are the sandbox parameters you are using in our project, for what is formal parameters, like that they will ask you. Also p set, how you will create p set, okay. So why we are using p set, and what is generic graph. Generic graph is a graph where everything is parameterized. So in this graph, so we will use components, right? In the components, we will keep everything as parameters only. Okay. And also they will ask you wrapper script. So have you created any wrapper script in your project? Wrapper script is a script. We are using in Unix. Okay, using Unix. Then you must know what parallelism, types of parallelism, okay, component parallelism, pipeline parallelism, data parallelism, which parallelism breaks the sort component, like that. They may ask you, they will confuse also in this parallelism. So you must know basics of this parallelism concept, okay. So if we use partition component, partition data means data parallelism we will use. That data pipeline means, suppose we are getting the data from the input file, we are processing the data in the transformation or filter by expression, and we are loading into the table, will be pipeline parallelism. So each record it will do the transformation and it will load the data. It will be pipeline parallelism. Component parallelism, it will be, suppose we will connect input file to reformat, two reformats, okay. So it will take the input from, it will take the data from the input file and both reformat and do the different transformations, and loading into the output file, both the reformat output. So here two reformat process, data is separate but loading into the file, right? So here we are using component. Okay. Suppose in pipeline parallelism, if we for input file and filter by expression we are doing, before we are doing any sort means, so sort component, what will it will sort all the data, input data, and then only it will process to the filter by expression component. That is the reason sort component is breaking that pipeline parallelism. You must know M commands. So M commands we are using for view the data, m underscore dump command, m_db command, m_expand command, okay, evaluation command. These commands, what this why we are using, we must. So suppose you run any graph and you created one file, so that file is that records coming correctly or not, using m_dump command, we will view the data. So we will give m_dump and db file, db path, and then file path will give. And if suppose you want to see the record one means hyphen record one. Suppose you want to see 10th record to 20th record means hyphen start 10 hyphen end 20, like that you need to give. You want to test dbc file means m_db test dbc file name. You want to test multiple or serial file means m_expand hyphen n. In suppose you want to evaluate any expression in the unit testing means you will use m_eval. Okay. Also, they will ask you performance tuning related performance. Have you done any performance tuning in your graph? Any performance improve the performance concepts, improve performance in graph like that. They will ask. So you need to explain what are the techniques you use to improve the performance. So there are many, almost around 20 to 30 minimum concepts are there. So first we need to filter the data. First we need to do the partition the data. Okay. So like that. So there are many things. So where we need to use sort component, replicate component. Unnecessarily we don't use some components. Okay. So pages with checkpoints we need to avoid more pages. Okay. Data parallelism. So partition the data as early as possible and departitioning as late as possible. Okay, for improving performance in this graph, in the graph we have many things. Okay, for input file component not required any replicate. It will we can connect any number of flows to the input file. Like that, many concepts are there. You must go through each and everything and understand the concept. It will be easy for you to explain in the interview. Okay. So here also they will ask dependency. What is dependency analysis? Dependency analysis is a process through which EME examines a project entirely and traces how data is transformed from component to component, field to field, like that. You need to explain on data lineage. Okay, how you are tracking your data graph. Okay, from each component to component, record to record. Okay, so you need to explain here data lineage. You need to explain and the recovery file. Okay, recovery file. So for every graph run, a recovery file will be creating. So what is that recovery file? Where it is storing? Okay. So sometimes one graph is depending to the two graphs means so how many recovery files will create. Okay. So for the individual recovery file or multiple recovery files. Okay. So how to remove the recovery file? Everything you must know. Also in M commands, you must know M underscore rollback and M underscore cleanup. Why we are using these two commands also you must know. Okay. And the pages and checkpoints also you must know why we are using pages and why we are using checkpoints. So pages are used to break up the graph into blocks. For performance tuning we will use pages. So suppose you are creating one graph. In the graph you creating one file. The same file you need to use in the graph again means first creating the file you will give in one page and unloading the file will be taken into another page. Okay, checkpoint. Why you are using checkpoint? When graph fails in the middle of the process means recovery file will be created, right? So this again you are running so when again you are running the graph means after the checkpoint it will start. Okay, from the checkpoint graph will start. Okay. So pages with checkpoints when we have large volumes of data means we need to use pages with checkpoint like that. We have pages with checkpoint, pages without checkpoint. Okay. So we must know. Also we need to know air commands. What are the air commands we are using in our project? Okay. So air object versions means if we will know the version of that object. Okay, air lock, air tag creation. Okay, air project export or import, check-in or check-out. Air project import or export. Import means check-in, export means check-out. how you will create so your tags means code promotion. You must know code promotion. So code promotion means the code migration to one environment to another environment. So how you will create that first you will create tag. Okay. And tag the objects to the to create a tag the objects to this tag. Okay. And create save file for the tag, create save file for the tag created. Then we will import or load the data, load save file into next environment. Next environment. Then import load save file into next environment. Then we will go to the SAT or next environment. Suppose here next environment is SAT means testing team means. So we'll go to SAT host, and you need to objects, extract the objects. Now, extract the objects means EME to sandbox. Okay. Now we will create the soft link here. Soft link to the current tag. Current tagging. Okay. So we will inform SAT team. All the objects are available in the SAT. So also once we develop the project or migrating, so we will connect a call to SAT team and BA team, and explain what the changes we did. So that and expected output we will show to the BA team. They will still okay. They will confirm the expected output is correct or not. If any changes means we need to do the changes again and deploy again. SAT team, they will understand what changes and they will do the testing. Okay. So in development we are doing unit testing. In SAT they will do system integration testing. In UAT they will do user testing. So after SAT team confirms and they give sign off, we will again do the code promotion. We will migrate all the objects into the UAT, and we will inform. We will change the calendar as per the requirement, and we will run. Okay. After running, BA team, they will explain, BA team, they will capture the data records and they will send to users. So users will check and give the sign off, expected output is coming on. Then we will migrate the objects into production. Pro- okay. So every month we have one code migration, one production date. So based on the so we'll get the details everything. So we will migrate all the details into the prod, and we will do the prod monitoring on that particular next day prod monitoring. Okay. Also you must know Autosys scheduling tool. Autosys or control center. So they will ask you auto rep -j command. Okay. uh, Job name. Here we will use the job names. Okay. Outer rep -j job name. Then you need to know what is on ice and on hold. Okay. The difference between on hold and on ice you must know. On hold means we are holding the jobs we are holding the job. So we are holding any job means the dependent jobs also will get hold. On ice means we are holding the job, but the depending jobs will not get hold here. Suppose any system issues, input or output source issue related means we will on hold the job. Suppose we are deployed objects the job into production, but the job should be run from the particular date. That job should not run today because you are expecting any file. That file will be available only after 2 3 days. Means you will keep that job on ice today, and whenever the file is available, you will check with PST, and you will move. Will change to off ice. Okay, once you get the confirmation from the PS team, production support team. Okay. Also, you must know lookup concept. Okay, why we are using in lookup in Abinitio. So we have static lookup and dynamic lookup. Okay, why you are using static lookup and dynamic lookup? Okay, so matching record. So what are the lookup functions? We have lookup underscore local. Okay, lookup underscore count, lookup underscore count, lookup underscore match, lookup underscore next. Okay, you must know all these lookup functions. Okay, so it will retrieve the data based on a key lookup component. Okay. So if it is a partition file, multi-file means we will use lookup underscore local. Okay, so here we will only get the first matching record. If you want to get all the records means we will use dynamic lookups. Okay, so so here it is static lookup means we will use lookup component. Dynamic means we will use lookup underscore template component. Okay. Also, you must know PDL concepts. PDL is the parameter definition language. It is a specific Abinitio interpretation language to interpret for interpreting the parameter values. Okay, so in PDL we have for to behave graph dynamically we will use PDL. So here we have inline D, inline DML interpretation and cornical interpretations we will have. Also here we will use dynamic programming functions and meta programming functions. So they will ask you, okay, if they want to understand you have PDL. So now in Abinitio current versions, the PDL is the default interpretation. Okay, we have another interpretations are constant curly brace, dollar curly brace. Okay, shell interpretation we have. So PDL is the default interpretation, and dynamic programming. Okay, we have to behave graph dynamic elements. We will use PDL. So dynamic DML, dynamic XFR. So everything we are creating dynamic using dynamic programming. So we need to write coding programming script here. Okay, so meta programming means we have different type of meta programming. So suppose for file related we'll use read underscore file underscore information, or directory underscore listing. For DML we will use record underscore type, yeah, add underscore fields, make underscore field, and for XFR related, make underscore transform, make underscore transform, add underscore rules, okay, Rem- remove underscore rules, transform. So there are different type of meta programming functions. So we must know all these functions. So to write dynamic programming. Okay, so we will use these meta programming functions in dynamic programming to behave graph dynamic, DML, and etc. We will use PDL. So this is a very important concept of PDL. Okay, then you must know what is conductivity and what is plan. Okay, conductivity and plans. In Abinitio, we are using graphs, P sets, okay, right? Similarly, in conductivity, we are using plans, okay. Grouping a set of Abinitio jobs to setting up dependencies like file, time, job, we are using conductivity, okay. And plans, so using plans only, we will conductivity functionality will run. So in plans consist of elements. So elements means tasks. In graph plans we use tasks, methods, okay, parameters, relationships. We are using. So you must know what are the tasks available: graph task, plan task, program task, conditional task. What are the methods available? Okay, at start, trigger, at start, at yeah, rollback, at success, at failure. There are different methods are there for perform methods. Okay, these are perform methods. Okay, so you must know the methods and tasks, and what is the difference between plan and the sub plan. Why we are using sub plan? We already having plan, right? So why we are using sub plan? So in subplan only we will use the loop concept. So looping functionality will be available in the subplan only. Okay. So plan will not support loop. So in subplan only we have loop type, loop concurrent, loop iteration limit. Okay. So and dynamic parameters, also main concept, dynamic parameters in plan. If they want to ask you any parameter related, they will ask you what is dynamic parameter. If you want to change any particular parameter, we will use the dynamic parameter to change that parameter. Okay. So these are the most of the interview questions. So I just covered Avinsure related topics only, not SQL and Unix. I will cover in another video. So please go through the these questions. Okay, you must know you must know at least basics of that word. So suppose lookup means what is lookup? Lookup is a component where we store the data and retrieve it is based on a key. At least you must say the definition of that lookup. Okay, then if you have experience real time means you why you are using lookup component. Suppose you have any file receiving from the user. Okay, that file you can extract from the reformat component and you can match the records. Okay. Otherwise, if you use giant component and use that file means you know giant component is a very costly component. There are many parameters are there in giant component. So that is the reason we are having a lookup, and we will use a lookup component and we will load that we will give the lookup name and we will use the key, matching record key, and we will use that transformation in the reformat. Okay. So like that, you must know what is the difference between on ice and on hold. Okay, autos is so how the job will how you will know the success mean success job name. So how you will post start, how you will know the failure command. Okay. So how you will migrate the code from one environment to another environment. Okay. So pages with checkpoint. Every topic is very useful in the beans. Okay. We are we can't identify the interviewer point. Interviewer ask this question that question, but you must know all these concepts. Okay. So dot Abinitio RC, dot profile, difference between the dot DPC, dot CFG. Okay. So all the components, all these components, basic, why we are using this component, and what are the parameters, and what is the runtime behavior. Okay, what are the partition components, what is repartition components, input table, output table, update table, commit table. Okay, so okay, thank you so much. Thanks for watching this video.